Now, we getting back to painting. In the start of the video, I showed you this, my color wheel. Of course, I am already used to it and I keep it in my head all the time, but for demonstration purpose, how it works, it's a good thing to show, and you will appreciate it, trust me. Now, we're gonna find the colors and match them. Color of the pumpkin and color of the stem. We start with the pumpkin. These are only paints I have. There is no kind of any fuchsias or whatever weird paints that you can see in the hundreds of items, kits from even good manufacturers. This is all we have on my hands. 16 colors. Of course, here is 18 colors because some of these, not important, are mixes between maybe primary colors and secondary colors, but majority of the samples here presented by a separate single pigmented paint from my palette. Okay, so since this is all we have, nature has only 3 colors, as you know: red, blue, and yellow, and apparently it's enough. Now, we need to match this color. So the algorithm is as follows. You take this, because this is only we have. We find the actual color of the pumpkin. So logic suggests this is shadow. It cannot be actual color because it's in shadow. Something happened to it. Normally, you have to look around the highlight. There is a small area around the highlight that actually represents the proper color of the object. So we need to sample from here or there, not within the highlight, directly around it. So obviously, as you can see, the closer match is the orange. Okay, so now I show you how it works. I will take a little bit of orange. It has to be cadmium orange, very important, and bring it here. Very close, but not close enough, because really and truly, in real life, there is no absolutely kind of clean colors like this. All we need to do is just add something to this to make it transform into something more lively. And usually, in 99% of the cases, the target color is a complementary color to it, which lies across here. Phthalo blue, red shade. So I will grab a little, add it. As you can see, there is a little transformation happened to the orange. It became a little bit off orange, maybe towards the brown, and that is actually exactly what we need. What you see on the screen, the pumpkin is a little bit more yellow orangey. On my picture, you can see the difference, right? It's a little bit more darker, and actually I like this more, and I will be working with that color. If for some reason your source that you're working with more yellowy, what logic suggests, you take your orange, add a little bit of yellow, not much, just to make it slightly more yellowish like that, okay? And from here you also try to add complementary colors, but this time, because we shifted towards the yellow, we need to use ultramarine. Okay, ultramarine has a little bit of violet in it, And that also makes, you can adjust the amount, you can make it darker. As you can see, this color will be used in shadows. Okay, so that, by that you're starting to choose first initial color, then you assume something happened to it, it transformed. To transform original color, you need to mix it with complementary color. To find it, here. This is why actually I always offering for sale my palette, because it's already all sorted. If you use it, everything is presented here. All you need is that, very simple stuff. Works as a charm. Now, second, this color, green, also. Which green is that? Now, this green, primary, secondary green, supposed to be a product between mixing blue and yellow, but as I said, everything here is supposed to be single pigmented, and that paint is not a mix but separate paint. The only difference is today I will be using different paint, which is called bamboo green. It also belongs to that. It could be permanent green or something. It's just a little different shade to me. Where is my other piece of scrap paper? Okay, so I will take this and try to match it. You can see it's too bright. We need to do something to make it this. So what we do, we look, say complementary color is red. In here I will add some red, and as you can see, ta-da, we have perfect match. Everything is very, very simple. Of course, in the future, as our objects will be getting more complex, color will get more complex, but for this purpose, when we have two colors, therefore we need 4 paints, 2 paints for each color, green plus red for the stem, orange plus blue for the pumpkin. That's it. This is all we're gonna get. No blacks, no browns, nothing. Forget about this. Okay? Now, I usually, sometimes, I don't want to say usually, lots of questions arising from this point. You can write me, ask me, I will answer all these questions, so please be feel free to contact me on that matter. All right, so what we do next? First step is create initial layout for our future painting. So we need to locate and create the highlights and the shadows, and by doing this we will do first underpainting, like undercoat. Okay, so how it's done? I'm gonna paint everything flat without any transformation, without any noticing shadows, only with highlights in mind. Highlights located for the pumpkin here, there, there, a little bit there. Okay, so the obvious highlights. On the stem, little bit there and there. So that's what I'm gonna do now. So there is the secondary highlights here. I will sort them later, not now. I need to work with the obvious ones. Okay, so I will start with mixing the color. I will get the big brush, loads of orange. So you see what I'm doing? I'm adding loads of water in the well, and then with the brush I kind of soak in my brush in that mix, pigment and water, and bring it in here. I need to create enough of material of one color so that I will be able to paint this seamlessly. For this purpose, I need to make sure I have enough of material to work with. So I guess this will be okay. So that's clean orange. Then tiny drop of blue. Okay, let's see. And I needed a little bit more watery. Something like this, like that. Okay. So I'll be happy with that. From this moment, my brush will not see the mixing water. I will clean it roughly. So this is the brush, like this, a bit wet. You can see it formed a nice pointy tip. And as I said, no more water from the jar or whatever you're using. I will be using only this. Okay, so I will grab, soak it with my brush, soak it with this stuff, and start to paint. So when it comes to highlights, I'm just working it this way, like that. If you miss something, it's not end of the world. I can show you a technique to restore the highlight. It's kind of a little bit orangey there, but you know, a little bit. Stay within the lines, so make sure there is no seam. So the fact that that brush is quite big, that nice pointy tip helps me to work along the edges. I will grab whatever hanging here. So okay, so that's first stage done. And then I will take my brush, the other brush, barely wet, and soften the edges for the highlights, like so. Remember, it doesn't have to be, it shouldn't be wet. Just also important, these highlights, they're not completely kind of blank, okay? They have some sort of tiny like hint of orange on them. Okay, so I also might have missed a couple of the highlights here. This is what I'm gonna do with this brush, barely wet, it shouldn't be too wet. I will just wipe some amount of paint from the surface of the paper, like this. Each time I grab it, some paint gets into the brush. I need to clean it, wash it, and to wipe it. And then I can go and do another one. Okay, so this way we can create some extra highlights like that. It also, that technique will help us to work with the some shape. You see this bumps, imperfections with the texture. Okay, now I'm gonna leave it to dry, and then we get back with the stem and the shadow. Okay, that is dry now. I will do the same with stem and the shadow. Exactly the same procedure. Green, I have some green there. Drop of red. Maybe that's too much, maybe not. Ooh, too much, of course. Okay. And very watery, painting the stem. Leaving the space for the highlights here. Softening the edges. Okay. Now shadow. All the shadows like gray. Okay. So we don't do grays out of black or anything. We use orange and blue. I'll show you this mix. Same orange, cadmium orange, drop of phthalo blue. You see the mix becomes brown. The more blue I'm adding, the more grayish it gets. So at some stage it will become black. So that's the paint for the shadow. Some photographs, some references will not give you decent representation of the color for the shadow. So in that case, we need to rely only our knowledge how it's supposed to be. Rule is simple. Say our object is orange and temperature of the color is warm, right? It's warm. Then color here of the shadow supposed to be colder, and then it will, as it gets away from the object, gets warmer. By saying that, I mean the same color could be warm and cold. This mix is quite cold. If we add a little bit more orange, it will come warmer. If we get more blue, it will get colder. Okay, so that's exactly what I'm going to do now. Again, very watery. And as it gets away, slightly warmer. We will get back to this multiple times, so don't worry. Like that. Very simple initial stuff. You know what I'm gonna do? Because I'm not too worried about the appearance of my work. I will be mixing colors here. It will be more kind of like easy to see for you. Now when it's all done, I hope it's dry. From this point I always will be using aid in the form of my hot air gun to blow it and dry it, because each next layer is supposed to go over absolutely dry surface. So that's our underpaint is done. What it does essentially just creates a key color that will be shining through whatever extra layers we're gonna create. So let's continue. I will put my reference in the front of me. Maybe somehow you can see it more clearly. Oh, like that. Now, from this point, I will be working practically with only this brush. That brush is stiff. It's not as soft as the big one. For all my layering, I'm using that kind of brushes, different sizes. I have two of them. They're all imitation of sable. This one is by Helbane, number 10 for a bigger layers. This one for the smaller ones. I will pick this one. Just to compare, this is imitation of squirrel. Very, very soft, gets a loads of water for washes. This one is stiff, more control, less water. Okay. Now, a little bit of color theory, which will help us to continue to work with this picture. Now, our pumpkin is orange. When light hits the orange pumpkin here, everything is kind of understandable. So it's orange, we can see it. But as it gets into the shadow, what happens to the like orange, it changes the color. But how it changes the color? It doesn't become kind of, so in other words, there is no black involved in here. The color is getting less vibrant, darker, and it might also change the temperature.